Hello and welcome back. Thank you guys for joining me again for another week of SQL Server fun. Today I want to talk about creating multi-object JSON arrays in SQL Server. And if you just said, what does that even mean? Let me show you. So imagine we have these three tables in SQL Server: home, cars, and toy, right? And basically what this data is representing are these different households and the vehicles that they have, as well as the toys, right? The big kids' toys, things like kayaks and ATVs and boats and things like that someone might have in their house. And you might look at these three tables and say, great, looks good, looks like it's well designed. Maybe you could normalize it, right? Cars and toys could probably be combined to one table and just normalize the fields there to be able to fit all the different properties. But maybe it's okay, have them separated out, right? Imagine we had maybe more tables as well, things for, lawn equipment or anything like that. So we have these tables, they look good. Why would you ever want to go deal with JSON or whatever, right? So this is now me talking from the application developer's perspective. Although these tables are great for like analytical kinds of queries, where we're writing queries that search across like all the rows of the table and wanting to, get counts and look at results, do some analysis. This structure is kind of a pain if I'm bringing this data into my application where I just need to represent one home and all of its entities at a time. Because what that means for me is I'm gonna have to query these tables separately, map them to different objects in memory in my application, and that's just a lot of work. It's not only a lot of work in terms of having to write those queries, or even if I'm using a mapping tool, like Entity Framework, it's just still, there's a lot there. It could be that I'm having bad performance because of it, because of all these queries, having to go to the server to get all this different data all the time. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm gonna have bad performance, but it's possible. So what I wanna try instead is to see if I could transform that data on the SQL Server first and bring it back in a format that's just ready to use inside my application, so I don't need to do additional transformations. Once again, it might be an easier solution to maintain, it might improve performance, it might not, it'll just depend on a case-by-case basis. But in order to do that, the way that I want to do it is to bring back those different objects, those cars and those toys, as a single JSON array. So that array is gonna have car objects in it, and it's gonna have toy objects in it, right? They're both gonna be crammed into one. So that's what today's video is gonna go over, is how do we create this array of different object types inside SQL Server. So let's go look at a computer and kind of go through this code line by line. I'll show you the different features in the code that make this work. All right, so let's walk through this demo code. I've included it in my blog post, which I've linked to below in case you want to download it or use it in your own projects. But that'll kind of be the easiest way to explain what exactly is going on here. How do we accomplish those multi-object arrays? So just to start out, right, we're gonna look at these three tables: home, car, and toy, and they look exactly like we saw before. They have different entities in each. And so the key things to the solution, right, so here's the solution. Here, once again, let's just run the whole thing so you can see what it looks like. We basically have one row for each home, and then all of the cars and toys here are represented in an array, right? So we have on this first line, our object is a car, followed by an object which is a toy. So the couple tricks that we have to take a look at here, the first is using without array wrapper, right? So if we look at that here, well, let's look at car here. So if let's comment out this where statement for right now. And if we go ahead and we get rid of the without array wrapper, right? And we just do for JSON path on this select car, you'll see that the string that gets returned here has these square brackets on the end. And since we're gonna be combining multiple objects into a single array, we don't want those square brackets. So what you have to do is specify this without array wrapper option on for JSON path. And when you run that, right, there we go, same string, same JSON string created, but there are no square brackets on either end. Now I know that sounds simple, but using that without array wrapper is way better than having to parse your string with left or right functions or substring or something like that. It's just much cleaner. So now the second thing we need to do is to use cross-apply, because we basically want to take these JSON strings and group them by the home ID, by our foreign key. And there's no way to do that with just for JSON path by itself. However, if we use a cross-apply and do that against home and then cross-apply our JSON path sub-select here, what we can do is then do a join inside that sub-select with our outer home table. And when we do that, we will get our JSON strings grouped by the home ID. So here we have home ID 1 and 2, and then we have the JSON strings with the cars right associated with those homes. So now our for JSON path isn't just creating one giant JSON string, but it's breaking it apart based on the different home ID. When we have that built for one of our tables, right, car, what we can then do is do a union all with our second table here, right, which is toy. Now, because our column structure is the same, we have home ID and we have this dynamic data column which has our JSON strings in it. We're able to do a union all with those two tables. Now, when we join those together, right, once again, we're going to join those in with home so we could get our other fields that we require. We basically then just do a string aggregate. So if you have that available, if you're in 2017 or newer, you can use string aggregate. If you're still on an older version, you got to do the whole 4XML stuff trick where you're taking multiple rows and putting them onto one. But what we're doing then is we're taking the rows from our, let me just run this so you can see it, right here. Here are our rows of dynamic data for cars and for toys, and we have our home ID. So we're just going to aggregate these together to concatenate the rows that have the same home ID. And we do that with string ag. Now, so if we run that, and all I'm doing here on either end here is just adding some brackets, right, to make it a true JSON array. If we run this whole query, you'll see there we go. We have our home data from our home table listed out with the different columns, and then we have this garage items array, which has not only our car object right in the front, but it then also has our toy objects as part of that array as well. So that's where our multi-object JSON array gets created. So to wrap things up, right, this isn't a solution that you will always want to use. It's more of to demonstrate that there are different things, there are different tricks with doing JSON in SQL Server that you might need to know, like cross-apply or without wrapper, without array wrapper, to be able to format the data in the particular format that you need it in. It's not always going to be better for performance to do this, right? It's just one of those scenarios where you have to test based on your given scenario because, you know, running this stuff on SQL Server is generally really fast, but then you're also using SQL Server to run this transformation code, and if you're running on Enterprise or something that's really expensive, you might be better off running it in your app. Unless it, you know, doesn't make sense, you need that performance in your app and you're okay with running it in SQL Server instead. So those are just all the different things that you basically have to consider, but in this particular scenario, it seemed to make sense to do these transformations in SQL Server. So that's it. Thanks again for watching this week. Happy holidays, and if you're traveling anywhere, please stay safe. If you're taking time off, enjoy that time off. I know I am looking forward to some time off. If you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe so you can get notified of when these videos come out every week, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.